Let's take a look at which Mario spin-off games have the best playable character rosters. Super Mario Kart may be the hardest one to judge on here, because it's the only SNES game on the list. Plus, it came out before many characters stabilized as important to the Mario franchise. There's no Wario, because he wouldn't exist until later in 1992. There's no Donkey Kong, because Donkey Kong Country wouldn't come out for 2 more years. Also, special mention of Mario's Tennis for the Virtual Boy, which has the same cast as Super Mario Kart but minus Bowser for some reason. Anyway, the weirdest inclusion in Super Mario Kart is Donkey Kong Jr. It's still been a while since he was relevant. And the weirdest exclusion is not Donkey Kong, not Daisy, but Goomba. Koopa Troopa's playable, so why not the other ubiquitous Mario enemy? Anyway, B tier. Mario Kart 64. The Nintendo 64 is much less restricted than the SNES, but they still only managed to have 8 characters in Mario Kart 64, swapping out Donkey Kong Jr. for Donkey Kong and Koopa Troopa for Wario. The swaps make sense, as Donkey Kong is relevant now and Wario is the hot newcomer who just came into his own with Wario Land. Still though, the roster feels unbalanced, as Peach is the only female character and the ambiguous Koopa Troopa was just removed. The weirdest inclusion is Wario, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. Wario still does deserve his place here though. B tier. Mario Tennis for the N64 does much better. It's the game that solidified many characters as spin-off mainstays, including Waluigi, Daisy, Baby Mario, Birdo, and Shy Guy. One odd thing about this roster though is that with a transfer pack and a copy of Mario Tennis for the Game Boy Color, you can unlock 4 extra characters: Alex, Nina, Harry, and Kate. Yeah, these guys were created for Game Boy Color Mario Tennis' story mode, but they were playable in the N64 version as well. Besides them, the roster feels very balanced and solid. The weirdest inclusion, besides the story mode human characters, is Birdo. Waluigi's a close second, with Donkey Kong Jr. not far behind, who had previously only showed up as a boss in Super Mario Bros. 2 and as a heroine in Wario's Woods for the NES. She's mostly here to be Yoshi's partner. The weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. Why Shy Guy, Boo, and friggin' Paratroopa are playable, but not the ubiquitous Koopa Troopa is beyond me. Because of the weird inclusions and exclusions, Mario Tennis only gets an A tier. The ever-present companion to Mario Tennis is Mario Golf. It's got 18 characters, which is only a small step down from Tennis, but I would describe this roster as somewhat bizarre. For starters, fully half the playable characters are the original creation human characters like we saw in Tennis. What's more, the default playable characters are Peach, Baby Mario, Plum, and Charlie. Yeah, Mario and Luigi, plus Yoshi, Wario, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Metal Mario, Sunny, Harry, and Maple must be unlocked. I really just can't see myself grinding to get 50 birdie badges in this game, just so I can unlock friggin' Maple. It just doesn't get me going, you know? The other 4 human characters come from the Game Boy Color transfer pack once again. Anyway, the weirdest inclusion is Metal Mario, with Baby Mario in a close second. Just implying that these guys are separate characters instead of, like, versions of Mario is kinda weird. The weirdest exclusion is Toad. Why isn't he here? C tier. It's just odd. Mario Party is a super prolific franchise, and at least at the start, the roster is quite trimmed back. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Wario, and Donkey Kong are the only playable characters. Bowser is very rarely playable in Mario Party because he's a prominent NPC, so I'll exempt him from weirdest exclusion status. Anyway, the weirdest inclusion is probably Wario, and the weirdest exclusion is Toad, I guess. B tier. Mario Party 2. The sequel to Mario Party has the exact same roster. B tier once again. Mario Party 3 takes all the characters from the previous 2 games and adds Daisy and Waluigi. The weirdest inclusion is now Waluigi, and the weirdest exclusion is still Toad. I get that Toad is the host, but they could have had a different Toad, could have had like Blue Toad, he's been playable before. This is undoubtedly better than the previous games, but still a B tier. Game Boy Color time. Mario Tennis starts off this console on a bizarre note. There are 9 playable Mario characters and a whopping 20 random human ones. Yeah, they decided to make all the story mode opponents unlockable characters for some reason. What is going on? Besides them, the weirdest inclusion is probably Baby Mario, although Waluigi is a contender as well. The weirdest exclusion is Daisy, although Toad is kinda up there. C tier. Yeah, okay, Game Boy Color Mario Golf is weird as well. The only playable Mario characters are Mario, Luigi, and Wario. But they still included 8 golf-exclusive human characters. They're exclusive to story mode, but still, what is going on? Besides them, the weirdest inclusion is Wario, and the weirdest exclusion is Peach. D tier, easy peasy. Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance. We are staying in handheld land for a bit longer. Super Circuit has the same roster as Mario Kart 64, so it's B tier once again. Mario Tennis Power Tour. So, remember the last Mario Tennis game? This one actually has fewer Mario characters available at only 6. Odd, huh? Well, it does the playable tennis original human characters thing again, so place your bets in the comments as to how many of these human bozos are playable in this game. A handful? A bunch? Just how many do they include, do you think? 32! 30 friggin' 2! What? How? How? Why did they put the dev time in to make these freaks playable instead of Wario? The weirdest inclusion is Waluigi. Waluigi's playable, but not Wario. What? But a Wario is not the weirdest exclusion. That honor would go to Yoshi. Yeah, this is the only Mario Tennis game and one of the only Mario spin-off games to not have Yoshi playable. Even Mario's Tennis for the Virtual Boy had Yoshi. D tier roster. Whew! Now I'm all fired up. Well, luckily Mario Golf Advanced Tour isn't nearly as bad. It's got 8 logical Mario characters on the roster. There's still 10 of the golf-specific humans on there, but in context, that's maybe not so bad. The weirdest inclusion is Waluigi, and the weirdest exclusion is Toad. C tier, I guess. Mario Party Advance. The Game Boy Advance is the least powerful console Mario Party has ever come out on. Because of that, the roster is trimmed all the way down to Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Yoshi. Yoshi's the weirdest inclusion, and Wario's the weirdest exclusion. Donkey Kong would be close second. The roster's incredibly small, but it feels like unfair to give a logical roster like this lower than C tier. For the GameCube now, Mario Kart Double Dash absolutely kills it with its roster. This is how you do it, by including everyone people would expect and throwing in a couple of fun and funky wildcards. There's some weirdness with Toadette being created as a brand new character just to be Toad's partner, and with Petey Piranha just being thrown into the mix for lols, but those two are just still super cool. Diddy Kong and Bowser Jr. are also fun inclusions. The weirdest inclusion is Toadette, the weirdest exclusion is Shy Guy, I guess. Maybe Dry Bones is second. Basically everyone you'd want is here. It's our first S tier. Mario Power Tennis. This game finally does away with the weird human characters, at least for the tennis series. Good riddance. Instead, all the slots can be filled with cool guys like Wiggler, and Koopa Troopa's finally in a tennis game. We love to see a roster like this. The weirdest inclusion is Fly Guy. What? What is he doing here? Paratroopas was one thing, and now this? Weirdest exclusion is Toad. What is it with these games leaving Toad out of the fun? The weirdness is the only thing keeping Power Tennis out of S tier, but it's still a strong A. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Yeah, the GameCube really stepped up the character roster game overall. The only Mario characters cut from the N64 version were Baby Mario and Metal Mario, and they were replaced with Boo, Diddy Kong in his first Mario appearance, and many others. 2 of the Golf original human characters from Advanced Tour, Neil and Ella, were available through transferring data with Advanced Tour, but 2 dud characters and a long list of cool ones is not nearly as egregious as some other games' choices. The weirdest inclusion is definitely Shadow Mario. Bowser Jr. is already here, and it's a Mario variant, whatever. The weirdest exclusion is Toad again. Where is he? A tier. Mario Superstar Baseball. The Mario Baseball series comes out of the gate swinging and pitching and catching and all them baseball things. Well, anyway, since baseball teams are so big, this game just kind of goes all out with character inclusions. Hammer Bros of many varieties are here, Dixie Kong is here, Monty Mole is here, Goomba's finally playable, Toadsworth is here, the list goes on. Plus, many characters come in color variants, like Shy Guys, Toads, Koopa Troopas, Piantas, Nokis, Magic Koopas, and Dry Bones for some reason. I think the color variants of Dry Bones are the weirdest inclusion, although Paragoomba's pretty dang close. And the weirdest exclusion is, I guess, Wiggler, since Wiggler was in tennis, or I guess color variants for Yoshi. Well, I'll stick with Wiggler. In any case, I think S tier is in order for such a cool roster. Super Mario Strikers. You know, I'm starting to run out of things to say about these. Don't look at the video runtime. One interesting thing is that Bowser isn't playable. Instead, he just randomly appears on the field to cause chaos. Also, the final opponent in tournament mode is a Bowser-backed team of robots called the Super Team, and they're playable after you beat them. I guess those are the weirdest inclusion and exclusion. If you don't count the Super Team, Birdo's the weirdest inclusion. This roster's fairly small for the GameCube, but Hammer Bro is playable and Bowser's the only major exclusion, so I'll call it a weak B tier. Mario Party 4. Buckle in for Mario Party, there are a lot of these. Mario Party 4 has an extra half dozen characters who I'm not counting because they're only playable in the Beach Volley Folly mode, so when I count them out, this has the same roster as Mario Party 3. Since we're on the GameCube now, though, that's just not good enough anymore. C tier. Mario Party 5 takes the last game's roster and adds Toad, Boo, and the Koopa Kid. It cuts Donkey Kong from being playable to make him a non-player host of special DK spaces. And it's good to see Toad being added after being randomly snubbed from so many games. Koopa Kid's the weirdest inclusion. He was kind of a proto-Bowser Jr. / Koopaling who was thrown into Mario Party games as a sort of stand-in for being able to play as Bowser. Excluding Donkey Kong, then, the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. He gets snubbed as much as or more than Toad. I'll call it a B tier. Mario Party 6. The only difference from the last game is that Toadette's now here as an unlockable character. This is undoubtedly cool, but it doesn't change anything. B tier. Mario Party 7 expands the roster by adding Birdo and Dry Bones as unlockable characters, and the Koopa Kid's gone now. How is Birdo here, but Koopa Troopa still isn't? Birdo's the new weirdest inclusion, and this roster gets B tier once again. DS time. Mario Kart DS is well known for having kind of a weird roster. There are only 12 characters, plus the download play exclusive Shy Guy, who I'm not counting for this ranking. Drybones is here. Many of the more interesting characters from Double Dash are gone. The weirdest inclusion by far, though, is Rob. I'm sure you know why this dude is a strange pick. Kinda cool, though. The weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa again. Stop doing this to me. C tier. Mario Hoops 3-on-3. The first Mario basketball game was developed by Square Enix, so it includes a handful of Final Fantasy characters. Neat. For some reason, Fly Guy and Paratroopa are here, but not Shy Guy or Koopa Troopa. Weird. And Dixie Kong is playable. The weirdest inclusion, ignoring the crossovers of course, is Fly Guy. The weirdest exclusion is Toad. Why do Toad and Koopa Troopa keep getting left out of the fun? I'll call it B tier, but only because I think Dixie Kong and Fly Guy are fun. Mario Party DS. Remember the lean roster from Mario Party 3 and 4? Well, this game took that and added Toad. Good. Remember this roster, as it kind of becomes a baseline for later. The weirdest inclusion is still Waluigi, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. B tier. Mario Kart Wii. I'm biased, but the Wii is full of games with very solid rosters, and Mario Kart Wii does excellently in that department. It takes the whole Double Dash roster, minus Paratroopa and Petey Piranha, and adds a bunch more great characters. Drybones is back from DS, Funky Kong and Dry Bowser show up, and Rosalina makes her first appearance. Awesome. Unfortunately, to fill lightweight spots, instead of adding like Goomba and Shy Guy, they add Baby Peach and Baby Daisy. Baby Daisy especially is unnecessary here. She's the weirdest inclusion, and I guess the weirdest exclusion is Shy Guy, with Petey Piranha maybe in second. Easily S tier roster here though. Mario Super Sluggers. I'll come right out and say it. This game is my holy grail of Mario spin-off rosters, also kind of Mario Kart Tour, but back on topic. Super Sluggers keeps every character from Mario Superstar Baseball and has really cool out-there picks like Blooper, Funky Kong, King K. Rool, and Wiggler. Lots of Donkey Kong characters are here, Yoshi color variants are here, also a weird number of babies. Yeah, Baby Daisy is back, plus Baby Donkey Kong? Bizarre pick. Baby DK, DK Jr., and Diddy Kong are all separate characters in the Mario universe, apparently. This is as confusing as Bowser Jr., Baby Bowser, and the Koopalings, and the Koopa Kids, and, well, anyway. I love Sluggers and Superstar Baseball for including so many of these species characters that we don't get many chances to play as, Goombas, Piantas, and many others. Plus Toadsworth is here. If he isn't dead, he should come back as a series mainstay. The weirdest inclusion is Baby DK, and the weirdest exclusion is, I guess, Rosalina? This game came out a few months after Mario Kart Wii, so she technically could have been here. Tippity top of S tier. Lots of Wii games still hold up, but I think Mario Strikers Charged does it best. And the gameplay is somewhat matched by its roster. It's got everyone from the last game except the Super Team, and it adds plenty of new characters. Bowser's playable now, and Bowser Jr., Petey Piranha, and Diddy Kong are the other new captains in the mix. I get more excited, though, about the new sidekicks. Boo, Drybones, Monty Mole, and Shy Guy are all personal favorites. The weirdest inclusion is Petey Piranha. The weirdest exclusion is Toadette, I guess. Excellent job overall, A tier. Mario Sports Mix was made by Square Enix, just like Mario Hoops 3-on-3 was, so the Final Fantasy characters from that game are back, plus Slime from Dragon Quest is here. But Dixie Kong, Fly Guy, Boo, Paratroopa, and Birdo are all gone. Lame. The weirdest inclusion is Diddy Kong, I guess. There's no absolute weirdos here. The weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa once again. C tier. You're on the Wii, you could absolutely do better than this. Mario Party 8. The last handful of Mario Party games have done a pretty good job at keeping all the characters from past games and adding a few more on top. Mario Party 8's no exception. It adds Blooper and Hammer Bro. Hammer Bro's awesome, Blooper's maybe a bit questionable. Blooper is definitely the weirdest inclusion, and Koopa Troopa's the weirdest exclusion. I love Koopa's Tycoon Town as much as the next guy, but Koopa could have absolutely been playable anyway in this game. B tier. Mario Party 9. With a change of developers comes a minor change in character inclusion philosophy. Mario Party 9 dropped Boo, Toadette, Drybones, Blooper, and Hammer Bro, but added in Kamek, Shy Guy, and finally Koopa Troopa. Took him long enough. The weirdest inclusion is now Birdo again, and the weirdest exclusion is Drybones. Maybe Toadette. Well anyway, B tier once again. While the total number of characters has dropped, the list makes a lot more sense now, in my opinion. Mario Kart 7's roster is infamous for having Honey Queen playable, but not Waluigi. But there are lots of other interesting characters on the list. Metal Mario's playable in Mario Kart for the first time, as are Wiggler, Shy Guy, and Lakitu. Cut from the list since we are, among others, all the babies, Drybones, Bowser Jr., and Diddy Kong. So while the average character is still pretty cool, there's just some weird decisions for who could be included in this game. The weirdest inclusion is Honey Queen, and the weirdest exclusion is Waluigi. C tier. Mario Tennis Open. This one's not too interesting. The returning characters are the main spin-off gang, but minus Toad and Koopa Troopa. Again. My goodness, I am at my limit here. I guess Shy Guy's gone as well. The newcomers are off-base though. Metal Mario, Dry Bowser, and Baby Peach are all playable, and Luma's playable, but not Rosalina for some reason. Super odd choice. The weirdest inclusion is Luma, and the weirdest exclusion is Toad. D tier. Everyone you'd expect is in Mario Golf World Tour. Plus, Nabbit makes an appearance. Gold Mario's here instead of Metal Mario. Kamek is here. Yeah, okay, so I said everyone you'd expect. You're not dumb enough to expect Koopa Troopa to show up at this point, are you? Of course he isn't playable. It's Paratroopa instead for some reason. Duh. Anyway, the weirdest inclusion is Gold Mario, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. B tier. Mario Sports Superstars. The roster for Superstars works differently from many other games. There are a solid list of 18 captains who are playable in each of the sports, plus a selection of more generic characters who can fill out your team in soccer or baseball. The captains include basically everyone you'd want. Note that Metal Mario and Pink Gold Peach are here, as are Birdo and Boo, who are sidekicks instead of captains in Mario Strikers Charged. I find it interesting that they used regular Boo here instead of King Boo. Well anyway, the sidekicks are where it gets really interesting. Note the Magic Koopas, Flying Squirrel and Penguin Toads, Spike, Boom Boom, and Pom Pom. Many of them come in 2 to 4 costume variants for baseball, although only 2 of each are playable in soccer. What I find weird is that Bone Goombas are the only character playable in soccer but not baseball. Strange. Well, there are lots of cool characters and my personal favorites here. The weirdest inclusion is definitely Bone Goomba, and the weirdest exclusion is Dry Bones. Besides him, Baby Peach is missing, I guess? It's definitely lame to be missing Dry Bones though. S tier anyway. Mario Party Island Tour. Man, half of these handheld games are called something something tour. Well anyway, oddly enough, for this game, ND cut all the characters they added for Mario Party 9. They added Boo again, and somehow, for the first time for Mario Party, Bowser Jr. Yeah, Jr.'s a genius inclusion since Koopa Kid was cut, and there's no good substitute for people who wanted to play as Bowser. The weirdest inclusion is Boo, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. I am so tired. C tier. Mario Party Star Rush takes the classic core roster from Mario Party DS and adds some solid characters. Donkey Kong and Toadette are back, Rosalina returns from Mario Party 10, and Diddy Kong is finally playable. Bowser, Bowser Jr., and Boo are only playable in the amiibo-driven Mario Shuffle mode, so they don't count. The weirdest inclusion is Toadette, I guess. She's still pretty good to include. It's too bad that Bowser Jr. isn't playable in the main game, but he isn't the weirdest exclusion. That honor belongs to Koopa Troopa! My goodness! B tier. Mario Party The Top 100. This minigame collection is a little weird, so I guess it kinda makes sense if the roster would be jank. Still, taking the core DS roster, cutting Toad, and adding Rosalina is a move. The weirdest inclusion is Rosalina, Waluigi close second, and the weirdest exclusion is Toad. D tier, because 3DS games can just do better. Wii U, Wii U! That's the sound of the fire truck coming, or should I say the fire cart, coming to put out the dumpster fire that is Mario Kart 8's infamous roster. I'll start with the good. There are a pretty good number of characters here. The crossover characters Link, Villager, and Isabelle are cool. Toad and Koopa Troopa are both playable. But my goodness, what are they even doing? Notable missing characters include Birdo, Diddy Kong, Bowser Jr., and Dry Bones. Instead of those guys, they put in all 7 Koopalings, Baby Rosalina, Pink Gold Peach, Cat Peach, and Tanuki Mario. Almost a third of the entire roster is weird filler characters. What was going through Nintendo's heads when they decided to include these variants and very similar characters over several notable franchise favorites? The weirdest inclusion is definitely Baby Rosalina. Maybe Wario would make more sense than her. The weirdest exclusion is Dry Bones. They could put him in Mario Kart DS, but not in this one for some reason. C tier. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is pretty mid. At least Toad is here. Rosalina finally makes her first tennis appearance, as does Toadette. The weirdest inclusion is definitely the Sprixie Princess, who's, I guess, here to promote Super Mario 3D World. The weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. No words. B tier. Mario Party 10 doesn't shake things up too much. Since this came out before Star Rush, this is Rosalina's first appearance, and it's Donkey Kong's first appearance since Mario Party 4. There's also the wacky inclusion of Spike, who will go on to show up a few more times on random rosters later. Still though, there's no Bowser Jr., no Koopa Troopa. The weirdest inclusion is Spike, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. B tier. First for the Nintendo Switch is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Since the release of the Booster Course Pass, 8 Deluxe has essentially patched up all the holes in the original Mario Kart 8's roster. Birdo, Diddy Kong, Dry Bones, Bowser Jr., Wiggler, Funky Kong, and Petey Piranha all make reappearances. Gold Mario, Peachette, Pauline, and Kamek all make first appearances. The only missing characters from previous games are Honey Queen, Rob, Paratroopa, and Donkey Kong Jr. Not bad. The weirdest inclusion is Peachette, and the weirdest exclusion is Hammer Bro, I guess. He has precedent for showing up in other series and was in Tour, so he could have been here instead of Peachette. Well, it's an S-tier roster anyway. What a glow-up. Mario Tennis Aces takes Ultra Smash's roster and just adds to it, except it cuts Sprixie Princess. But added to Aces are Toad and Koopa Troopa, thank goodness, Birdo, Paratroopa, Shy Guy, Diddy Kong, Petey Piranha, Luma, Spike, Chain Chomp, Blooper, Boom Boom, Pauline, Kamek, Dry Bones, and Fire Piranha Plant. Yeah, we love to see a roster as full as this one. There are so many cool picks here that I just cannot complain. The weirdest inclusion is Fire Piranha Plant. On top of having a piranha other than Petey being strange, including it instead of a regular piranha plant like we had in Smash was wild. The weirdest exclusion is Baby Mario, I guess? S tier once again. Mario Golf Super Rush takes World Tour's roster, cuts Diddy Kong, Birdo, Kamek, Paratroopa, Gold Mario, and Nabbit, but adds Koopa Troopa, Pauline, Chargin' Chuck, King Babam, Ninja, Wiggler, and Shy Guy. I would say that's absolutely an upgrade. Lots of really cool characters are getting first appearances here. I'm shocked that Shy Guy had never been in a Mario Golf game before. The weirdest inclusion is Ninja, although Chargin' Chuck is close second. They're both kind of niche enemies that I'm surprised got a spot on the roster. The weirdest exclusion is Diddy Kong. Overall, Super Rush gets an A tier. Mario Strikers Battle League's roster is absolutely a downgrade from Charged. The only newcomers are Pauline and Rosalina, who I like well enough, but they don't outweigh the loss of Boo, Drybones, Hammerbro, Koopa Troopa, Monty Mole, and Petey Piranha. The enemies totally got the shaft in this game, which is mostly down to the end of the Captain Sidekick system. Lame. The weirdest inclusion is Birdo, and the weirdest exclusion is Koopa Troopa. I thought we were done with this garbage. C tier. Super Mario Party. For potentially the most confusingly named Mario spin-off of all time, the core Mario Party cast is all here, minus Toad, and plus Donkey Kong and Rosalina. Shy Guy, Boo, and Koopa Troopa are all back, which makes this one of the rare games that have playable Koopa Troopa but not Toad. Bowser is playable in all modes for the first time ever in Mario Party's history. Drybones and Hammerbro are both here, which is good to see. Bowser Jr. and Diddy Kong are back. Goomba, Monty Mole, and Pom Pom, but not Boom Boom, all make first appearances here, which makes this a very enemy-heavy roster. But I'm biased and I like that a lot. Pom Pom is the weirdest inclusion and Toad is the weirdest exclusion. Really, if Toad were here, this roster would be perfect. As is, I would call it A tier. Mario Party Superstars. See, this is why the last game's name was confusing. The gameplay for Mario Party Superstars was an improvement over Super Mario Party, but the same cannot be said about the roster. It's just the core gang, including DK and Rosalina, but minus Toad and plus Birdo. Bowser and every last one of his buddies and minions were somehow cut for this roster. The weirdest inclusion is Birdo, and the weirdest exclusion is Toad. Such a small roster is really lame for the Switch, and missing not only Koopa Troopa but Toad here is just a disaster. D tier. Super Mario Party Jamboree. Now this game comes out in between when I'm writing this script and putting out the video, but we've seen the roster and it looks solid. It takes everyone from Super Mario Party except Pom Pom and Diddy Kong and adds Toad, Toadette, Birdo, Spike, and the newcomers, Pauline and Ninja. What an excellent pile of characters. The weirdest inclusion is Ninja. I guess Ninja, like Spike, is starting to become kind of a regular spin-off character. The weirdest exclusion is definitely Diddy Kong. Seems there's a trend of Diddy missing off on spin-offs he should really be playable in. Although this isn't so bad as at least Donkey Kong is playable, S tier. And that's my whole tier list. Overall, Mario Baseball did best, with Mario Kart second. Mario Party was the most mid, with 10 of its 18 entries being B tier. Mario Golf and Basketball were the worst. Koopa Troopa was the weirdest exclusion 16 times, and Toad was the weirdest exclusion 14 times. That means that one of them was weirdly missing in at least 30 out of the 48 games. Wow. Maybe I need to reevaluate how important these characters are to the franchise. Anyway, thanks for watching. This was more work to make than I expected, but it was a whole lot of fun. Let's hope all the rosters are S tier in the future. Subscribe to see more like this. Bye.